It only took one image and one interview to get the Dragon Ball Super manga fandom absolutely hyped about the future of the Dragon Ball Super manga again, and we don't even have a release date yet. Toyotaro revealed in an interview the pecking order of the Dragon Ball Super Universe 7 warriors. In the interview, it is highly interpreted that he stated that the majority of them are on a similar par in terms of competitiveness, and I'll get into that in a moment, but there were a few surprises in there. Now, Black Frieza was stated to be the strongest, which didn't come to surprise of many, even though some people do still believe that Gohan Beast with his full extent mode can compete with that. I might make that in a separate video, but the biggest surprise, I think, in that particular interview was that Orange Piccolo is as strong as Ultra Ego Vegeta and Ultra Instinct Goku, and I'll also include by extension Gohan Beast and Super Saiyan Broly as well. But as I stated in the video just the other day, there's nuance to this. I don't believe that they all necessarily have the exact same quote-unquote power level in the traditional sense. I just believe that they can all compete, and that the connotation of strongest, we need to start getting used to the fact that they use the connotation of strongest in many different ways when portraying certain things in Dragon Ball and anime in general actually. But in this video we are going to focus on the fact that Orange Piccolo is at their level. Is there any groundwork for that? Why is it such a surprise to so many people? Why so many people Orange Piccolo deniers now? I know a lot of people refer to the Piccolo fandom as the Dickolos, but they've been arguing this case for quite a while, and Toyotaro is the A1 source for the Dragon Ball Super manga, whether you like it or not. But like I said, there is nuance to this, and there's a lot of conjecture, especially surrounding Orange Piccolo's form, so we'll get into that. But just before I continue, guys, I put out about 10 videos a month. I do this as a hobby really, but I really would like you to subscribe if you're not subscribed. Please do if you're a regular visitor to the channel. Keep smashing a like on this video, or any videos that I do for that matter, because it does help me fight off the algorithm. It is lending a Dragon Ball brother your energy to fight off this YouTube algorithm. And please do comment down below. That's my main payment for this, guys. I don't get paid a lot doing this, trust me. Ultimately, what I want is to start dialectic down in the comment section, and that's what I really do this for, is to start conversations and be a catalyst for these conversations, and I hope you enjoy that. Please do subscribe, comment, and do smash a like on the video. Thank you. So, Orange Piccolo is as strong as Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Broly. Not Frieza, however. And obviously based on current information, not the God of Destruction of Universe 7, Beerus, either. But I think one reason people are really excited about Dragon Ball Super and the continuation of this manga, even post the tragic passing of Akira Toriyama, is the fact that Chapter 103 really left off in an exciting place. We had multiple fighters. It wasn't just Goku and Vegeta time anymore. We had multiple warriors, all capable of being unpredictable in their next fight and potentially putting up a fight and being competitive. And that particular word, competitive, I feel was the perfect translation for the interview we got from Toyotaro. Now, I know certain people have tried to find different translations, but I think when you apply subtext and pretext from the actual manga itself, competitive or competing is the perfect translation, simply because of the amount of nuance involved with this. They cannot possibly be all at the same power level, and we've got feats and instances in the manga itself to show that. So how are they all competitive with each other? Well, Dragon Ball Super has done a really good job, and it doesn't get the credit for this, from moving away from purely focusing on raw power levels or raw banks of power to decide who the winner of a fight is. Now, I'm not saying it's not important, it is still quite important. However, it's not the be and end all equation for the fights. Now, this, I would say, started in probably the Future Trunks arc, where we saw Immortality serve as an equalizer to far greater raw power. Okay, Murzumasu was getting duffed up, but at the same time, he managed to outlast Vegito Blue, who was vastly stronger than him. Even more so we saw in the Tournament of Power. We saw Goku's Ultra Instinct and the abilities that come with Ultra Instinct outmaneuver Jiren, who you could argue that in terms of raw banks of power still surpassed that of Goku. Because of the speed hacks, the dodge hacks, the mastery of self-movement, the ability to exploit openings, to be able to counter that, and Gohan does it later on as well, to be able to counter that, Jiren would have had to have had a greater raw power level in a traditional sense to be able to overcome that. Dragon Ball's really become about styles of making fights now. Once again, that's not me saying your overall raw power level isn't important. It does play a big factor. If the power gap between two fighters is too big, then you cannot equalize that. But we are starting to see more and more often these sorts of abilities and hacks abilities equalize a greater raw power level. Look guys, I've been into martial arts my whole life. Styles make fights. I'm sure you've heard that saying, especially if you're a boxing fan. Dragon Ball is starting to go back to the original Dragon Ball, where it was more about techniques, or at least there was more of a focus on techniques and abilities in a fight in terms of what the outcome of the fight would be. So obviously Goku and Vegeta were these ultra forms. People keep downplaying them, saying they're not that good forms anymore because they can just be caught up with regular power levels. No, they are package transformations. They come with hacks and abilities that allow them to get the better of an opponent that is at the same level as them. But we probably know more about those ultra forms than we do about Gohan's Beast form. I guess you could say we really know about Broly's Super Saiyan form, but maybe not. And Orange Piccolo's form has a lot of conjecture surrounding it. For example, with Goku's Ultra Instinct form, it's been around since the Tournament of Power. What's that? Circa 4 to 5 arcs now. Been around for a long time, even though he couldn't do it well for a while. You know, we have learned a lot about the form over time because we've seen it in battles against Jiren, Moro, Granola and Gas. And even Gohan now. Like I said, it's a package transformation. Mastery of self movement comes with a power ramp over that of Super Saiyan Blue, speed hacks, dodge hacks, enhanced reaction times, exploitations of openings, so he's basically landing critical hits. He can actually get stronger as he fights. He becomes more durable and refines his movements as the fight goes on. However, that does rely on him keeping his mind and heart calm and tranquil. However, it does come with a few downsides. The fact that it takes quite a toll on his body. He cannot hold on to the form for long. He cannot really get emotion amps from his Saiyan genetics in the silver-haired state, even though he can in the true Ultra Instinct state. So if he cannot keep his heart and mind tranquil like we saw against Gas, it stops growing. It becomes stagnant, as Vegeta pointed out. Vegeta's Ultra form is Ultra Ego form. Obviously, is a God of Destruction based technique transformation, and once again, it comes with hacks. It comes with enhanced power levels, but it essentially works by allowing him to get stronger during battle by delving deeper into the mind state of destruction. And he does this, at least as far as we know, by basically taking damage because it burns his battle desire, which increases his mindset for destruction, and he gets stronger. However, the downside of that is if he takes too much damage, he has a damage limit basically, then he can be knocked out, as we saw against Gas, as we saw against Black Frieza, who had such a power differential. And I'll go back to what I said earlier about if the difference in power is too big, then these techniques and transformations cannot equalize greater raw power. Black Frieza basically just one-shotted him. Broly, with his controlled Super Saiyan state, or as some people are calling it, the legendary Super Saiyan state, is basically just a regular Super Saiyan state. He has more control over this than his Super Saiyan full powered state that we saw in the movie. The conjecture here is it just a regular Super Saiyan state, which we know a lot about because we've seen it in the past, or does it allow Broly to grow in battle like his version in the movie did against Gogeta? That's unknown. That's still conjecture. We can only really make assumptions at this point, but the one in the movie allowed him to adapt in battle and get more durable as the fight went on. However, he had no control over it. He does have control over it now, but does that control come at a cost of the fact that he can no longer grow in battle? As we saw against Gohan, he wasn't seeming to be growing. So on that short little instance, that's all we know about it really. Gohan's Beast form seems to come with two versions really. He's got the regular form that we saw fight against Cell Max, as well as Ultra Instinct Goku, where Ultra Instinct Goku, despite Gohan's extreme power amp in terms of sheer raw power, Goku was still using the Ultra Instinct abilities to equalize and subsidize Gohan's raw power level, as Vegeta pointed out. However, Gohan can go into a full extent mode where he allows his power to rise even further and shoot up, but finds a way to control it, where his sheer raw power level went so far above Ultra Instinct Goku's that he was actually able to land on him. Vegeta even stated this, that he outsped and blitzed Goku's already enhanced reaction times. Goku gets speed axe with Ultra Instinct, yet Gohan's power level allowed him to compete against this and actually get the better of him on that occasion. As I've stated before in videos, I believe Goku can win a certain amount of these fights, but in terms of sheer raw power versus sheer raw power, I can't see any other argument than Gohan having the advantage in that regard right now. However, like that Toyotaro interview interpretation states, they are competing against each other. I believe those two are still competing against each other, despite Gohan potentially having more raw power. In fact, you could argue that Gohan's Full extent mode could be closer to Black Frieza's raw power level. And I'll actually make a separate video on Black Frieza another day because this is really about Piccolo, and I am getting to Piccolo. I know I've talked about those other guys quite a lot now, but I think it was necessary as subtext for understanding Piccolo's form. Now, Piccolo in the superhero movie or the superhero arc obviously got a lot stronger with his orange form. He went from getting bodied by Gamma 2 to basically one-shotting Gamma 2 with little difficulty. The Gammas, for the most part, have been put at Goku and Vegeta at their Super Saiyan Blue levels of power. I know some people do dispute that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. But Piccolo did to Gamma 2 essentially what Frieza did to Ultra Goku and Ultra Vegeta with his black form. So similar differences in power there. Whichever way you cook it, even if you wanted to downplay Piccolo, he was somewhere between blue levels and Ultra Instinct levels in the superhero movie. Now, Toriyama did make a statement surrounding the movie that Piccolo was now on par with Goku and Vegeta. So as of the superhero movie, Goku and Vegeta with their Ultra forms, Piccolo was on par. Now, on par doesn't necessarily mean directly level with them. It just means that he isn't too far away from them. Once again, you could use the word competitive or competing. It actually aligns and correlates to the subtext and the pretext that we've got from the authors of the series as well as the feats in the series. Now, the bigger problems begin when we start comparing Orange Piccolo to Gohan Beast, because we literally saw Gohan Beast batter Cell Max, who even in a very uncontrolled baby-like state beat the hell out of Piccolo in his orange form, a giant Orange Piccolo in fact. But you could say that Orange Piccolo was taking the hits from Cell Max, as well as landing offensive himself. Now I know quite a lot of people did land against Cell Max, even the likes of Krillin. However, when Cell Max was fighting Piccolo, they were fighting head on. Piccolo wasn't catching him off guard. Sure, Piccolo equalized Cell Max's greater raw power, once again with experience and fighting abilities. And obviously if we go to chapter 103, Super Saiyan Broly, in terms of raw power, was put at a similar level to Gohan Beast by Beerus, with Beerus stating that Gohan had the upper hand because he had more control over his form than Broly had over his form. In fact, you could go back to when Gohan was fighting Goku. Vegeta stated that Goku had more experience than Gohan, and it was having an effect on the outcome of the battle. See, there is precedence for this stuff. But the big question is how has Piccolo managed to close this gap on Gohan? Because as we saw with Goku and Gohan, Gohan had to use his full extent mode to get the better of Ultra Instinct Goku. So Goku is close and competitive with Gohan with his Ultra Instinct form. Piccolo, to be competitive with Goku, would have to be pretty close to Gohan in terms of raw power, because he doesn't have these hacks abilities, at least not we know of, with his orange form that Goku gets with Ultra Instinct that serve as equalizers, for example. So what does Piccolo have? Well, that's the issue with Piccolo right now, is there's a lot of conjecture. We know he has trained since the superhero arc, and leading up to the sparring matches on Beerus' planet, a certain amount of time has passed. We don't know exactly how long, but Piccolo in that time likely has gotten used to his new form and trained with his new form and trained with Gohan Beast. So he's had a good sparring partner. The other aspects of Orange Piccolo's form is we now know that Piccolo is from the Demon Realm, or a descendant of the Demon Realm, and we know that magic exists in the Demon Realm. Shenron gave him that orange form. Now obviously there's discussions to be had about whether Daima is going to be able to be part of the Dragon Ball Super canonicity because of certain contradictions, and yes, they are there, but it's still possible and plausible that if there is a movie or a season 2 of Daima, that those could be aligned. But Piccolo and the Namekians are from the Demon Realm. Does Piccolo have access to magic now in his orange form? Did he just not really know about it when he first attained his form? Because it was a surprise to him, if anything. So maybe he's trained that and got used to it now, and maybe he has some of these things at his disposal. Remember, Moro did state that his magic gave him an advantage over Ultra Instinct Goku when Moro had his Angel Morris form. So magic can have an impact on Ultra Instinct. Perhaps that's the case. Don't forget, Piccolo is pretty hacked anyway. He can regenerate, he can become a giant. He also has the special beam cannon, which is an incredibly amping technique. But based on certain information that we have now, all we know is that Piccolo has a raw power up in a traditional sense with his orange form. But I do believe it is putting him at ultra levels of power, at least base Gohan Beast levels, not necessarily his full extent levels, and Super Saiyan Broly levels. Of course, Piccolo's a much better fighter and experienced fighter than Broly, so he has that over Broly as well, even though I think that right now, raw power wise, Gohan and Broly are probably top of that pecking order, but but I think they are all competitive for different reasons because styles make fights. In fact, I might make a video about who would come out on top in a Royal Rumble of these 5 if they actually went bloodlusted it all out in a future video, which is why you must be subscribed. So my question to you is, can Piccolo beat Ultra Instinct Goku or Ultra Ego Vegeta in a one-on-one fight? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Like I said, without you commenting down below, there's not much reason for me putting out these videos every month. Let me know your thoughts. I'm really looking forward to reading them. Smash a like on the video. It's an exciting time to be a Dragon Ball Super fan now. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Until next time, Ad Astra.